My name is Jessica Watkins, and I'm a second-year PhD student in the Department of Earth and Space Science at UCLA. I study landslides on Mars. The question that I tried to answer is, what is the trigger mechanism for these landslides? So what makes them occur? So the landslides that I study are in an area called Valles Marineris, which is a huge canyon on Mars. It's about the width of the United States. It's really, really deep as well. It's much deeper than the Grand Canyon, and obviously much wider than the Grand Canyon as well. If I can understand why these landslides happen in the canyon, in Valles Marineris, then from there we could start making conclusions about what formed this giant canyon. To study those landslides on Mars, first we do kind of start with Earth. So the Earth is something that we can go see, we can study, we can understand. And so when we study Mars, what we want to do is use Earth as an analog, which means that we will take those things that we can understand from Earth and apply them to Mars. The processes that occur on Mars are inherently similar to the processes that occur on Earth. They just happen at different scales. So landslides on Mars are actually really, really large scale. They come from heights of about up to 4 kilometers, and they flow out to up to 70 kilometers, which is several times the magnitude of landslides that you see on Earth. So there are kind of 4 possibilities in terms of what might trigger these landslides on Mars. The first is a plane of weakness in the cliff. So if we can find kind of a weaker layer, weaker composition that maybe these landslides are slipping on, that could be one. The second is you could slip along essentially what is a kind of a frictionless layer. So it kind of, you can think of it as a layer where something gets trapped, and it can either be air or steam, or it could be water or ice, anything like that, where you have this mass sliding along this kind of frictionless layer, and that's going to allow it to run out further than it would without that layer. So that's another possibility that's kind of causing these really long runouts that we see in the landslides. A third possibility is you can get seismic activity as a result of impacts. So if you have a meteorite come down, crash on the surface, that's going to, you can imagine that would kind of shake up the surface and cause some earthquakes. And so that seismic activity might be what kind of causes that failure in the cliff. The fourth option is seismic activity along faults that kind of bound the canyon. And so if you just get you get activity along those faults, that can cause the landslides to occur. You can kind of get slip along those faults. These landslides happened fairly recently in Mars history, and so if they involved water or ice, that would imply that there had to be climate conditions to allow water or ice to occur during an earlier or a more recent time period. And the implications from there are kind of the questions about life on Mars, which is kind of the big question that everybody wants to answer is there life on Mars? Was there life on Mars? And so if we can answer questions about what climate has been recently and whether water or ice was on the surface, that kind of leads to the possibility of life on Mars.